Last week, we talked about this small wholesale deal that Dan's been working on for months now. Right now, you're stuck in mud, and it's causing a lot of frustration, anxiety, and it's affecting other parts of your life and business, and that's what needs to be protected. Your time, energy, and mental bandwidth is way too valuable to be spending on this little deal that has thin margins. I think you need to get away from like being passive, sitting in the passenger seat, riding shotgun. I think you need to jump into the driver's seat here. Having said that, we're not gonna continue to throw good money after bad money. Are you gonna pass go and collect $200? Or are you not? One of my coaches always says that the number one job of an entrepreneur is to protect their confidence. And right now that's being affected, and we need to own that. Picking up the phone and having a conversation with the seller, and then based off of that, based on if it's, hey, it's worth pursuing this or not, picking up the phone and having a conversation with the attorney. I mean, either way, I think you have to have a conversation with the attorney. And I think right now you've been chasing, and you know what I'm gonna say, we don't chase, we attract. What happens when you reach a certain level of frustration and anxiety and angst that makes you feel like you're paralyzed, like you're stuck, like you can't move forward, like you just don't know what to do? And today's podcast episode might feel a little different because a lot of the emotions Dan's going through right now, the level of frustration is at an all-time high. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he and I were just talking before this, and I could tell in his voice and in his energy that things weren't great. And I gave him some advice, and I kind of shared with him a few things. And I said, man, why don't we record this? Are you open to putting this out there? Because one of the things that Dan and I talked about when we decided to share this with the world and to essentially like document his journey on this show was, let's only do it if we're going to be real, raw, vulnerable, and transparent. Like, let's be authentic. And part of that is not just highlighting like the rainbows and unicorns, the wins, but like, let's be real. We all experience challenges. We all experience setbacks. Sometimes it feels like I told Dan, I said, Dan, if you're going to continue to like ram your head into a brick wall, let me at least give you a helmet. Right. And he started laughing, and that kind of lightened the mood. And now I see a smile on his face. But to set the stage, last week we talked about this small wholesale deal that Dan's been working on for months now. And there's been, if you haven't heard that episode, I want to encourage you to check it out. But we basically dissected the timeline of a wholesale deal and working with an attorney, the do's and the don'ts. And that helped give him a lot of clarity. And as we were about to hit record here, I asked him, hey, let's transition and talk about this big $3 million deal that you're currently working on. But before we do that, why don't you just give us an update as to where things stand with this wholesale deal? And then all of a sudden his energy shifted, and I could just tell he was stuck in quicksand. And so now we're here. And one of the things I shared with Dan, well, before I share with you what I shared with Dan, let's hear from the man himself. So, brother, we just had a moment before we started recording. This is no different, right? It's just people are going to hear this, and I commend you, man. I honor you for having the courage to put yourself out there, because it's not easy. Trust me, I know it's not easy. And trust and know that you're helping a lot of people in the process, and you're very real and relatable. And you've been at this for a while, and you have a strong desire to succeed in storage. And I have no doubt, zero doubt, that you're going to succeed. It's not a question of if this is going to work, it's when. And I wouldn't have done this with you if I felt otherwise. Okay? So, but I want you to take some pressure off. When I asked you to give us an update about this wholesale deal, it feels like somebody just like punched you in the gut. You lost your air and you dropped to your knees. What's going on? Tell us where things stand right now and what has frustration for you at an all-time high.
Yeah, so it's not just this wholesale deal that has me frustrated. That's one thing, but right now where that one stands is I've signed the contract and sent it to the owner, and it should be in final form, and I'm just waiting to hear back from the owner or from the owner's attorney. That was 5 days ago, so I'm surprised I haven't heard back yet. I'm waiting to hear back any day now. And that's where that one stands. Whether it goes anywhere, I still don't know. Whether it's worth pursuing, I still don't know. Um,
Okay.
but
Was there an
that's where
expiration
it
date
is.
on that contract? Because usually when you send an agreement, there's a 3 or a 5 or a 7 day window in which that offer then expires. You don't have to search for it and look it up, but do you recall if you had some type of like deadline, like, hey, this offer is no longer valid, it's null and void, whatever it, on a certain date?
I did. I don't recall what the date was.
Okay.
Maybe I'm sure it was a week or less.
Okay. Fair enough. Um, what are you feeling? You had mentioned, and maybe we'll circle back to that. And I definitely want to transition at some point in this show to that $3 million deal, if it makes sense. More than anything, this isn't just meant to help everybody listening and watching, but I want to make sure that you walk away with more confidence and clarity. Uh, what are you feeling you should do at this point with this deal? I want you to see if you can coach yourself through this, and let me just kind of guide you and prompt you. And if you don't get there, then I'll jump in, obviously.
I think at this point, I'll wait to see if the seller sent it back signed, and if they do, we'll move forward. If there are other hiccups with it, it might be time to really look and see if it's worth continuing on with this one, being that it might be a little thin as it is. I don't know how much more of my time, energy, and aggravation it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with the attorney about switching to a flat fee versus, because what I don't want you to do is continue paying this guy his, I don't know if he sends you bi-weekly or monthly invoices based on the hours he spent. I mean, I feel like this guy's like milking this thing, and like we need to like pull the ripcord on that already. Have you had a conversation since our last? No?
No, I haven't.
Okay, what do you,
That's one of the things that's making me so angry.
okay, so what is it? This falls into the domain of things we know we need to do,
Yeah.
but yet we don't do them for some reason. What is the fear? What is the reason you haven't picked up the phone and had this conversation with the attorney? What's preventing you from doing that?
I'm not sure. Is it as simple as just saying, "Hey, we've been doing billing by hourly to this point, and it's added up to be a whole lot more costly than anticipated." I've heard from colleagues and mentors that they have never heard of spending this much time and money on a purchase and sale contract to get it finalized, and that they have recommended to me to see if there's a way to do I guess like a one-time package payment fee or something along those lines, and see if they offer something like that.
I don't know. You tell me. And
That's what I would.
I'm being slightly facetious here, but like
Right.
part of us working together in this journey, at times you have reverted back to overthinking things versus just doing what you
Right.
already know. And look, and part of this, man, I find oftentimes people will avoid an awkward and uncomfortable conversation. And I think that's what's really at play here. I think at the heart of it, it's not that you're not sure what to say. I think at the heart of it is that this feels like an awkward and uncomfortable conversation. You tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but
Yeah, it's true. And being that I don't need them for anything at the moment, I guess I figured I would wait and
okay. So
contract back from the seller and see where it went from there.
here's just because obviously this is very unique in that we're recording this, right, for others to benefit from. And at the same time, I'm coaching you. So it's almost like I have the host interviewer hat on, and I also have a coach hat on. If this were a coaching call and we had more time, I'd ask you more questions, dig further in, help you arrive at the solution and the best path forward that you already know that's inside of you. Okay. because we're recording this, I think I'm going to jump in and start to steer this thing towards, I think, the direction that makes sense for me based on me knowing you and everything I know about this situation. Do you have a direct line of communication with the owner?
I do.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
My first conversation, before I have a conversation with the attorney, because going into the conversation with the attorney, you need to know, Dan, to reference a monopoly thing because it's behind me. Are you going to pass go and collect $200 or are you not? Okay. And right now you have allowed this deal to just, like, you haven't taken control of this deal. And that could mean grabbing the bull by the horns and, you know, taking the bull or the horse to water and making him drink. I think you need to get away from like being passive, sitting in the passenger seat, riding shotgun. I think you need to jump into the driver's seat here. And the first conversation is with the seller, with the owner, to determine, are we moving forward or are we not? Because your time, energy, and mental bandwidth is way too valuable to be spending on this little deal that has thin margins, that is questionable if you're even really going to be able to find a buyer for it. And I think the fact that you have money and time sunk into this is exactly that. It's a sunk cost. And so we're not going to make decisions based on things that have already happened and money spent that's already spent and gone. At the end of it, in the future, you'll be able to reflect back and you'll realize that this has all been a valuable learning lesson. And while it doesn't feel like that now, if you're going through the pain, you might as well learn the lessons. So I think it's important that we extract the valuable experience and nuggets out of this situation. Having said that, we're not going to continue to throw good money after bad money. And so I think you need to draw the line in the sand, and we're kind of at that fork in the road moment where I need you to now step up, grab the bull by the horns, jump in the driver's seat, whatever analogy you want to use, Dan. And you need to have a heart-to-heart conversation with this seller that we need to decide if we're moving forward or not. Because this thing has dragged on way too long, brother. Way too long. And I don't understand why. I'm still not quite sure what the hiccup is. Like, what is it in the language that's tripping this thing up? This is a very small deal. And it should have been very straightforward, but it's been months and months. And I think now you need to just decide, hey, listen, there's other opportunities I'm working on, which is true. This has been going on for months and months. I respect my time. I want to respect yours. It doesn't seem like we're going to be moving forward here. What is the issue? Identify the core issue and come to a solution with the owner on that. Because the owner hired this. Actually, no, you hired the attorney. So I think you need to first decide with the owner, is it worth pursuing? And is there anything that the owner's doing to hold things up? If he's not holding anything up, and you need to own this thing because you hired this attorney. You need to have an uncomfortable and awkward conversation with the attorney and say, hey, and I wouldn't say reference like, hey, I've heard from colleagues and mentors and friends. Like, you need to communicate with confidence. While you haven't done this before, this is a $175,000 deal. I don't understand why it's taking months and months. I should have never agreed, by the way, to an hourly thing. And so you need to first get clarity about what is holding up the deal. What is the issue at hand? And then what needs to be done to resolve it? What is the problem with the language exactly? Because this should be a very easy, straightforward deal. And I don't even have those answers. I don't know if you have those answers. So I think first and foremost, having a conversation with the attorney, drawing a line in the sand there, figuring out what is preventing this from getting inked so that then you can go about finding the right buyer for it. And if you're going to move forward, setting up a different arrangement with this attorney, and that might involve then firing him. In fact, my gut tells me you probably should. And let's find another title company that can handle this, that isn't going to like milk you to death in this thing, charging you hourly.
Yeah.
In fact, if I were you, that's probably what I would be doing anyways, is let me just cut my losses with this particular attorney. And what if we just went back to the drawing board and you just worked directly with the owner? Now, you know that I can't give you legal or financial advice, right? So this is all an experience share. For such a small deal, personally, I'd be okay dealing directly with the owner, but I'm also not going to be the one to tell you, hey, you don't need to hire an attorney or anything, because I want you to do what makes you feel comfortable, but that doesn't keep you stuck in mud. Right now, you're stuck in mud, and it's causing a lot of frustration, anxiety, and it's affecting other parts of your life and business, and that's what needs to be protected. One of my coaches always says that the number one job of an entrepreneur is to protect their confidence. And right now that's being affected, and we need to own that. And you need to look internally and say, hey, not only what can I learn from this, but like, I got to own this outcome. This is on me. Because when you look internally, you're able to then do something different to affect your external reality. And but to your credit, I haven't heard you point the finger at all, not once, to the attorney, the seller, or anybody. So I think it's important that we take responsibility, accept accountability for where we're at in the situation, but don't choose to continue to suffer in that place. Yeah. So first conversation is with the owner. If it's nothing, if the owner's ready to rock and roll, but there's just some hiccups, it's a conversation with the attorney, and I probably wouldn't be working with that attorney anymore. And don't feel like you're starting from zero, from scratch. Brother, we should be able to easily find somebody to take this on that can handle the closing, if it's going to get there, within the next 24 to 48 hours. So I've shared a lot. I would have asked you questions and unpack things further, but for the sake of time, what are you hearing? What comes up for you here?
That was all so valuable for just my headspace of processing all of this. So I've heard from some others in the storage rooms community. There's a girl in particular I've been working a little bit with, and she mentioned that she has sent a purchase contract to a seller without even having an attorney review it. And now, and she feels confident doing that. I don't know if it's because she's already bought deals in that state, so she has one that she feels good about that covers everything that needs to be there on the contract for that state. But it just blows me away. Like, how can it be so difficult to get a purchase contract like this with this attorney helping me? And
yeah, well, we've already unpacked. I think that's not the right question to ask, right? Because that question keeps you stuck, right? And I think we need to ask a little bit of a different question. And look, everybody's got different risk tolerance. You know, she is very comfortable sending a purchase and sale agreement. There's others in the community that feel the same. I remember on my very first deal, it was my first storage deal. It was for almost 1.6 million. I hired a big wig attorney that I didn't need to spend the kind of money I did. Now, granted, there was some nuances with that, and that I was buying the business, etc. But I still learned valuable lessons from that. So I think at this point, man, what I want you to do is I want to get you moving forward and unstuck here. And don't put all your eggs, you should never put all your eggs in one particular basket. Whether it's a big deal, a small deal, especially on a small deal that we even have some questions and concerns if the numbers make sense anyway. There's a part of me that wants to tell you, like, hey, let's cut bait on this thing as it is, unless you're able to get a lower price, because at your contract price of 175, I remember it was questionable if we could even sell it for 195, 199, 200. You know, so we're talking about you're spending all this time, energy, and money on a potential, let's call it $20,000 wholesale opportunity. That would be nice to bring in that 20 grand right now. Don't get me wrong. But at what expense? And so I really do believe you're at a fork in the road moment where you need to decide, you need to have a conversation with the owner, with the attorney, and decide, are we moving forward and pursuing this, or do we need to just, let me cut my losses, let me keep the owner in my follow-up campaign. I think you and I talked about that deal probably makes a lot more sense if you're able to get it under contract in the low 100s. To then, if I remember correctly, to see if we can find a buyer in the 140 to 150 range.
yeah, ideally, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
and
probably
that
most
might not work at all with the storage owner, and that's okay. Like it doesn't have to work with the storage owner. The majority are not. We're not looking to work with the majority. We're looking for your first deal right now. And if that means passing on this and maintaining a relationship and keeping him in your follow-up system and the follow-up sequence, then great. That's what we do. But I don't want you just focused on this one opportunity. If I was to ask you how many other opportunities have you not pursued, or has this state of mind that you're in right now has affected, the opportunity cost, I would argue, is probably a lot greater than 20 grand. And I don't share that to like shame you in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, you know that's not what I'm doing. But more than anything, to throw that bucket of ice cold water on you to say, hey, like, let's wake up. Let's make some hard decisions about what direction we want to go in here, because there's no reason it should take 3 months to put together this small deal that where you and the seller have already agreed on a price, but it's just been paperwork stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff to think about.
Yeah, well, that's I don't want you to think about it too much. Is the point? I don't.
Right.
I want you to like. Let's not overthink this. Let's make some hard decisions, like today, about what direction we want to move in here. Are you opposed to, like, as soon as we hop off here, picking up the phone and having a conversation with the seller, and then based off of that, based on if it's, hey, it's worth pursuing this or not, picking up the phone and having a conversation with the attorney? I mean, either way, I think you have to have a conversation with the attorney.
Right.
Because I don't
I'll do that.
Yeah, I don't even know, is the attorney has he spent any more time or energy on this? Like, I have no idea where we're at in the timeline here. And more importantly, I don't know if you know where we're at in the timeline. Like, when was the last time you spoke to the attorney on this thing? Quickly, just in a nutshell.
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you haven't had any updates in 2 weeks.
Where it stands now is they have the final contract to me, so I've sent it to the seller.
Okay, so the attorney has already done his last dotted I's and crossed T's?
As far as my understanding is, yeah, it's
okay.
They've said it's good to go.
Part of this, brother, that I want you to grow from and through is my sense is telling me that you're not quite sure where you stand on this, and I realize this is the first time you've gone through this, so there's going to be just some uncertainty, like some things you just don't know. But getting an understanding of, okay, what changes has the attorney made, and since it was sent to the seller, what's happened when was it sent to the seller? How long has it been in the seller's inbox? Like, we got to operate with a little bit of a sense of urgency here. And if we're going to move together, if we're going to work on this thing, let's work together. What I'm sensing is that the seller doesn't have very much motivation to get this thing closed. The motivation stands on you. And so you're coming from a place of need, and whereas the seller's like, I don't know, that's the sense I'm getting. But I want you to wrap your arms around this thing, figure out where you're at, so that then it's easier to make decisions moving forward about what direction you want to go in. Like, we can't continue to let this thing like hang out in limbo. Like, oh, I don't really know. The seller has the contract. I don't know. It just seems very like there's a lot of fog in the air with this deal. And I want to remove that fog so that okay, are we going left or are we going right here?
What's been the most confusing to me has just been the attorney's interactions with me and steps he's taking to fix the contract and adjust it the ways it needed to be adjusted. And yeah. I don't understand why it's taken so long and so much back and forth, but
right. Well,
anyway, where it is now is, yeah. I mean, hopefully I shouldn't have to deal with them anymore.
Yeah, look, I'm speculating
or work with them anymore.
I'm speculating to a certain degree, Dan, because I haven't been involved in the interactions and email chains and conversations. But unfortunately, like, you kind of like open yourself up to this when you agree to pay somebody hourly. There is no benefit to him to speed this up and get this done in an hour or two. And so, I'm not accusing this person of milking this thing. I don't know that. That's what it smells like to me. I just can't. I understand attorneys are busy. They have a lot of things going on, and this small little deal is probably not at the top of his pile. But I don't want you to agree to anything moving forward in terms of an hourly rate. Flat fee moving forward, and for something like this, you're not even really paying a flat fee. You're paying this in the back end. So we covered that in the last episode, and I think you're clear on that. So do you know what you need to do moving forward now, in terms of a conversation with the owner and the conversation with the attorney?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, man,
Yeah.
I shared with you before we started recording was sometimes when we're going through it and when frustration is high, when anxiety is through the roof, and you're kind of feeling like you just want to scream, you want to hit a punching bag or something, I think we need to shift from a place of sometimes we're in victim mentality, and we need to rise and ascend above that mental state. And one of the best ways to do that is not only to do something for someone else, because sometimes we're so stuck in the internal that we can't see anything else. And I think we need to focus on the external, focus on others, do something for somebody else. But it's also, man, like leaning into the gratitude and operating from that state, because you got your health, you got beautiful kids, beautiful wife, a roof over your head, food in your stomach, a community of people that care about you in Storage Wins. You got support, you got friends. You're in the top 1% of the world. Now, that I don't share that or say that to diminish or downplay some of the real emotions you're feeling and experiencing, right? That's not what I'm doing at all. I want to recognize those emotions and what you're going through mentally right now. So I'm not like judging that in any way, shape, or form. And I want you to recognize that for what it is, come from a state of gratitude, and then start to rise up above that. Because otherwise, you're letting this small deal affect everything else. And that's not what we want you to do here, obviously. Okay?
Well said.
All right, man. So don't overthink this thing. I don't need you to like look at your notes after this call and spend game plan for an hour and a half on what the conversation is going to be like with the owner. I literally, after this call, I'm tempted to ask you to call the owner right now so that we can figure out what's going on. And in fact, if you're open to doing that, we can do it. You certainly don't have to. Totally up to you. But I would love to get my arms around this situation. And let's figure out if we're moving forward or not. And I think right now you've been chasing, and you know what I'm going to say? We don't chase, we attract. What do you think?
Yeah, you want to call the owner? I'll call him right after we get off the
Okay.
podcast.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a plan.
I
So
feel like that would be easier.
you feel better about at least the direction moving forward. It's not like we solved the problem, but at least more than anything, I wanted to give you some guidance, direction, let you know, regardless of what happens, it's going to be all right, dude. Sometimes you just got to take a step back, like take a breath, put things in its proper perspective, get some clarity about what direction and what's the next step, and don't be attached to the outcome. And then recognize that in the future, it doesn't feel like it now. In the future, I promise you will look back with a smile, maybe even a laugh, and maybe even you helping somebody else, sharing like, man, you want to hear a big mistake I made? Like, check this out. You know, I can do that because I've made my fair share of mistakes. I shared with you on the last episode, I spent, I don't know what, 13, 14, 15 grand hiring an attorney to review documents and go through this whole ordeal on my first. And that was a big learning lesson for me. So give yourself some grace. And what I'm not going to allow you to do is stay in this place that you're in mentally and allowing the deal to just kind of like hang, you know, just this fog. Like, dude, we need to lift this fog and we need to decide and act.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay. So no analysis paralysis, no overthinking. As soon as we hop off, pick up the phone and call the owner. In fact, we're right at the 30-minute mark. I'm gonna make just an executive call. Let's cut here. Let's cut here. On the next one, I want to get an update as to how that conversation with the owner went, how the conversation with the attorney went, and I want to hear I want to hear what decisions have been made and where are we going with this deal. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
And then from there, we can transition and talk about, you're still working on this $3 million deal, right?
I am.
Okay, perfect. And I know that we're gonna be doing a case study breakdown on the Storage Wins coaching call tomorrow. So obviously we'll dive into the details and the nitty-gritty there. But I'm certain that people that have been following along on your journey want to hear about that. I'm certain there's an army of people rooting for you, dude. And again, man, I'm not wearing a hat, but if I was, I'd tip my hat to you for putting yourself out there. There's a lot of growth that is happening, whether you feel it or not. And I'm certain that you haven't gone back and listened to all your episodes, but for somebody that has, they're probably witnessing this growth happen in real time with you, man. So again, I appreciate you putting yourself out there. I know it's helping you. I'm confident it's helping others. And we're going to continue to build here. We're going to continue going, man, until we get you across the finish line. And I'm confident that will happen. I don't know when, but I'm confident it will.
Appreciate it, Alex.
All right. So
Thank you.
Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube, on the Storage Wins podcast. Start a dialogue. Connect with us on social media. If you have a question for Dan, reach out to him. You got a question for me, reach out to me. And with that being said, if you don't have an army of people that are supporting you, that are pouring into you, I want to invite you to schedule a discovery call. Head over to storagewins.com. storagewins.com. We'll hop on a quick call. I'll ask you some questions and just share with you about our opportunity and what we have going on inside the Storage Wins community. So with that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Alex.